Okay, we're starting Be'ez Hashem, the third shir on haGuela, and we're in the hakdama, page Yud Beis, last paragraph, starting V'tema ani. So the Rebbe says, V'tema ani hafla v'fela. He says, how could it be? Hayala al adas shal smach svaras apikorsim gemurim ha'ikrim das Torah akdosha uregilim lahafkir damim shal Yisrael. That can we use the svar? Can we rely on the decisions of heretics who completely uproot the Torah and they don't care about Jewish lives? Can we rely on them? And how could we go into a war in which thousands of Jewish lives are at stake? Even when we had a kingdom, the time of the Bayis Rishon and Bayis Sheni, Shahayu Mikusharim B'chol Tenuaseim Ach B'das Torah, even the times when they were good kings, like David HaMelech, Shlomo HaMelech, who were completely connected to Das Torah, Hakdosha, Kishiratzu Likanis B'Muchama, but when they wanted to have a war, Shakli V'tari Be'em Ufachad, Imhu Be'emes Das Torah Kain. They had to decide, that the Sanhedrin had to decide whether it was right to go out to war. And they used to spend the whole day davening before the war. That says by the Pilagish Bagiva, it says that they went and they cried before Hashem and they davened. And therefore, when they fought wars, they were helped from the side of Kedusha. They were helped from Hashem. Hashem haya be'oizram. Abla apikorsim gemurim shekol mezimasam lasois hakol neged haTorah Kedusha. These apikorsim, the Zionists, who want to go against the Torah, gam b'yadayim, they make laws against Torah, against halacha. V'al sfarasam atmeya yiyah nimser lasois milchamos. So should it be in their power to make milchamos? Should we trust them? Should totally be ibud harbi nefashis miYisrael, that lives are at stake? How can the religious people who follow the Zionists, how can they together with their leaders, how can they stand this? How can they praise and thank the apikorsim for this war? That what's going to happen is the apikorsim are saying now, we got them. We got all the from Jews on our side. Because after the 6-Day War, everybody knows that it became much more acceptable to be Zionists and to be, in the Orthodox world.
No.
And so that's what the Zionists really wanted. They wanted the war. They wanted the territories that they conquered, but they also wanted to conquer the from Jews. That was important to them. Shiyoimu, they're going to say. The Zionists are going to say on this Muhammad that Zeh HaYoim Shekivinu, this is what we were waiting for. Now we have them in our hands, we can do what we want with them. Who knows how much can damage could be done because of this? Hein begashmius v'hein beruchnius. Gashmius, we know what happened after the war. There was an unending campaign of terror against the state of Israel and against all the Jews, and Beruchnius, you see more and more Yidden are moving to Eretz Yisrael, and they're under the hashpah of the Zionists. And now it's coming time the Zionists are changing the curriculums of the schools, and they're trying to get from Jews into the army, and so on.
Yeah, so, the Silkuts from Degatures participating. Enabling it. How
could the from followers of Zionism and their leaders have taken such a achrayas on them? To go and praise the Zionism and promote it. The whole Jewish people should be in the hands of these wicked people who are apikorsim gemurim. The only way that you can explain why these rabbanim would do such a thing is because of the bribe of the influence of people, the hamasame einayim behechlet. The Baal Batim, the people who pay for their institutions and who support them, if those people are pro, then they're also going to be pro. And therefore we can step back and say, you know what? This whole war, from beginning to end, the danger that led to the war, and then the Zionist response to the war, to the danger, the whole thing could have been created by the Satan. And it would have been worth it, because the Satan got a lot for that. It would have been worth the Satan even to do nisim and niflois. Atzumim. Yoiser me'ela. Even more than what actually happened. Because it would serve his purpose to get the Jews to get them in the hands of the apikorsim. Now we need the mercy of min hashamayim to be saved from the anger that's going to come from Hashem because of this. Hashem has put me in the hands, it says in the pasuk in Eicha, Hashem has put me in the hands of someone who I can't stand up against. How can we now see the evil that will befall my people when they're in the hands of the Tzionim? Anybody who remembers the way previous generations Gedolim thought about Zionism, he won't be able to rest. He won't be able to give rest to his soul because of the difficult situation that's going on now. We have no one to rely on except for Hashem. When it was during the war, there was nothing to do except to daven that the Yidden shouldn't get killed and defeated. That there shouldn't be a destruction of the whole Jewish people. So he's saying, that there were these people who the Rebbe mentions in the Nasa Torah, the people who claimed that the Rebbe wanted the Arabs to win the war. Mm-hmm. So he's saying that during the war, what do we daven? We daven that the Yidden should be saved. Period. That's why he said, but the
meaning of the Meshinim is because what does?
Because in order for the medium to get power, first they have to be malshin on the Erlich Yidden and say that they're bad, so that people shouldn't follow them. So when we daven during the war, so Hashem Yisbarach with his mercy, He didn't want the Jewish people to be killed because of the sin of the apikorsim. In other words, the apikorsim went and they were mafkir us. They threw us into a dangerous situation. But nevertheless, Hashem didn't want us to be killed because of that. The apikorsim are the ones who started the fire. But Hashem came in and He saved the Jews from the cruel people on both sides, the Zionists who started the war, and the Arabs who were fighting.
Like I said, Meir Kahane wrote this wonderful book. I mean, I like the title called Uncomfortable Questions for Comfortable Jews. I like the title. I never read it, but I love the title. Uncomfortable Questions for Comfortable Jews. You're comfortable Jew. Just kidding.
Yeah. Okay, it could be that even the tefillos that we davened for the Jews in Eretz Yisrael, all around the world, that helped them be saved from the war. In the middle of the paragraph, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines down. And together with the schus of the Tinoika Shel Beis Rabbim and the children learning in yeshivas, those children learning pure Torah in Eretz Yisrael, Uschus B'nei Yisrael, Haksherim, Shvurei Lev, Hadarim Sham, also the the good Jews who lived there, who'd also davened, Hananakim v'Anakim v'Shafchu libam kamayim lifnei Hashem Yisbarach v'Savlu pachad v'Ema noira. Those people who were very afraid and they prayed to Hashem. Emas mavis v'Sakana gedoyel chas v'shalom b'shvil zeh nisbatla az ha'gzeira. And because of all these things, that's why the gzeira was annulled and the Yidden were saved. The gzeira that came because of the Zionists starting the war. Okay, so now he's going to discuss a different question. Good, Hashem saved them, but He saved them through the victory of the Zionists, which was a big nisayon. So why did He do that? So he says, "V'medrash Rabba Parshas Chayei Sarah, Parshas Samach Siman Yud Beis, Amru Mipnei Ma Loi Nifkada Rivka Ad Shehispalel Aleha Yitzchak." Why was Rivka barren and childless for 20 years until Yitzchak davened for her? So he says, "Shelo yiyu akum oimrim tfiloseinu asza peres." You know why? Because the family of Rivka, when Rivka went to go with Eliezer to go marry Yitzchak, they said a bracha to her. They said, "Achliseinu at hayi li'alfei revava." Our sister, may you become a myriad of people. They blessed her. So now, if she would have gone right away with Yitzchak and had children, then the Akum, the family of Rivka, Lavan's family, would say, "Oh, look what we did with our tefillas. Tfiloseinu asa peres." So therefore Hashem made that Rivka was for 20 years unable to have children, until finally Yitzchak davened for her and she had children. The chazinan bazeh, we see from this, shehi nichu es aviseinu v'imoseinu b'tzara tuva, that Hashem put our avos, imahos, in great pain and suffering, kama shanim, for many years, bishvil shelo yoimru, only because people shouldn't say sheyesh bozeh toivasin shel rishayim. So over here, kol shekain, Hashem.
I'm sorry, what was that?
That Rivka Imenu, right, didn't have children for 20 years after marrying Yitzchak. Why not? Still in the bottom of Yud Gimel.
Okay.
So he says because the family of Rivka blessed her that she should have children. So Hashem didn't want them to say, "Oh, our tefillas did it." So He made her wait until Yitzchak davened for her.
I mean, because of Lavan.
Yeah, because they shouldn't think that Lavan was the one who caused the bracha.
Interesting.
So here, Kal v'chomer, if there's a war going on and Hashem has a choice, He could save them through the Zionist victory, or He could save them a different way. He should save them a different way. He shouldn't save them through the Zionist victory, because that's going to cause the Zionists to say Tfiloseinu asa peres, not Tfiloseinu, the Tzahal asa peres. Yeah. Okay. So why didn't that happen? He's just being magdil the kasha here. Avoin ador. The answer is because of the sin of the generation. Ma shenigrarim achrei hatzionim leminehem. Even the salvation of the war that came from Hashem, but because and bishvil shaloi ratzav b'gzeira, and then hanoira, because Hashem didn't want this terrible thing to happen, shegarmu apikarsim. But still, the avoin ador caused that idkar alei b'chutzas u'v'rchayvas shma deminim v'koifrim. It was mentioned in connection with this Yeshua, the name of the Zionists. Those people who insult Hashem, and why was this done? As a test for the Jewish people, they shouldn't get caught in the trap of the Samach Mem. So we, who are still not victim to these nisyonis, we should take to our heart, and we should think about this. And what he means by avoin ador is that when there's a klal of b'derech sh'adam roitza leilech moilichem oisai, that whenever a person wants to do something, even if it's the wrong thing, min hashamayim, Hashem will help him do it. and it says haba litame poischim loy. Haba litayer misayin oisei. Right? If someone wants to be bad, Hashem will open up the door for him to be bad. And the Gemara in Avodah Zarah Naf Nun Hey says that when Avodah Zarah sometimes performs miracles, the reason is because they already wanted the Avodah Zarah, right? They already made the wrong decision, so Hashem Yisbarach lets them...
That's like what Ma'aser Satan is.
Yeah. And the same thing by the Navi Sheker, it says that that the Navi Sheker could do a nace, right? It says, Nasan elecha oisoi moifes. So I think the Ibn Ezra says that, and the reason why the Navi Sheker has the koach to do a nace is because they listen to him. In other words, there's two stages. First, the Navi Sheker comes and says things, and they listen to him. And then, because they listen to him, they get an oynish min hashamayim that the Navi Sheker is able to perform a nace and make it even harder to resist. So the same thing is with Zionism. The Rebbe is saying that because they were going after Zionism anyway, even before the 6-Day War, so now Hashem Yisborach decided that they deserve, it's Habali Tameh. They wanted to be Matame themselves, so Poischim Lo Hashem Yisborach gave them a bigger opportunity to be Matame themselves. Okay. Va'ani mefachid oid. He says, I'm afraid of something even more. He's saying, Ulai hakol asher lakol. Everything here. Hein hisgaras mishnei atzadim. The whole history of the war. First of all, the build-up to the war. The tension that developed between the Arabs and the Zionists. And gam hatzala, and also the victory. Hakol hu ma'aseh satan. The whole thing was ma'aseh satan. Kedei lahasisu lahadiach, in order to give opportunities for people to go off the derech. Kemoisha matzinu be'ioiv, shemaster oisei kodesh baruch hu la'satan, la'sos imoi masha asa. That the story of Eoiv was that in order to test Eoiv, to see if he was faithful, Hashem Yisbarach gave him into the hands of the Satan. Ach his hiroi rakis nafshei shemor. But Hashem told the Satan, don't kill Eoiv. Okay? Umavur begemara b'av bastard af tes zayin. Omer b'yitzchak kashet zarei shel Satan yoiser mishel Eoiv. That the pain of the Satan was worse than Eoiv's pain. The Satan who had to protect Eoiv's life while still harming him and making him suffer, that was greater than Eoiv. It's like someone who told his servant, go break this barrel of wine, but don't let the wine come out of the barrel. Break it without breaking it. Upirish Rashi Zal, Tzarwei Shel Satan, what was the sar? Shehuzkach lishmor es nefesh Eoiv shaloi teitzeh, that he had to protect Eoiv from dying. Ume'olam niskashesi bozet. I always had a problem with this Gemara. Lama hayet tzorich lahazir es Satan lishmor nafshoy. Why did Hashem have to command the Satan to guard the life of Eoiv? Bishlam hatzar she'asaloi. This that the Satan made him pain and suffering. Zevad shaykh la Satan. That's the Satan's job. Ki me'ito yisbarach shmoy loy teitzei harois. Hashem doesn't do these kind of bad things. He gives it to the Satan to do. Aval shmiras hanefesh, but protecting his life. Hine biyadoi yisbarach shmoy nefesh kol chai. Hashem has the power over everybody's life. V'ruach kol b'sar ish. V'im rotza hakadosh baruch hu lishmor es nefesh Eoiv. If he wanted to protect Eoiv's life, why did he need the Satan to do that job for him? Hein emes she'efshar loymar. The truth is, you could say that shekivin she'asatan hu hamemis, since the Satan is the malach hamavos, right? He's the one who kills people. So therefore, lachein huzar shaloi la'misoy. Therefore, he's telling him, in your capacity as the angel of death, you're going to kill people. Don't kill Eoiv. Ava miloshin shmor. Mashma shaloi ala ma'isa bilvad shaloi la hamisoy huzar. It's mashma from the words shmor, keep his life, guard his life. That it wasn't just that the Satan was being told not to kill him. El he's kikoi gam lishmor. He's telling him, watch him, protect him. V'chein muchrach b'ma she'amru gadol tzaroi shel Satan mitzaroi shel Eoiv. And that's also the pshat. When it's also mashma from the words that the Satan had more pain than Eoiv had. If the only thing was that he wasn't supposed to kill him, it just means don't do something. Why do you have pain from that? Elamai, it must be you had to do a positive action of guarding Eoiv. Rashi says he had to protect him. Now he brings a Moyer Dikaraya from the Gemara Chulin. Listen to this. How the Rebbe could see in a Gemara that seems to be unrelated to anything, he could see something about Sionis. Look at the Gemara. Gemara Chulin Daf Mem Gimel. The Masha Nishar Eoiv B'chaim Haya Ma'aser Nisim. That Eoiv being surviving all his plagues and his sicknesses, that was a miracle. For Lama Huskak HaSatan La'asos Nisim. Why did the Satan have to come to do a miracle? Take a look at the Gemara in Chulin. This is in Eilu Trephus, the beginning of the parak that talks about the trephus that can render an animal unable to live and be a treifa. So the Gemara says, the fifth line from the top, Amar Chia bar Rav, Ches trephus yesh b'nekuva. There are 8 types of limbs of an animal, of parts of the animal's body that can be affected by nekuva. Because before that, the Gemara said there's 8 types of trephus. Look at the top line. Amar Ula Ches Mine Trephus Nemru Lo Lamoshe B'Sinai. There are 8 categories of trephus: nekuva, upsuka, netula, v'chasura, krua, drusa, nefula, ushvura. So these 8 things are different ways that the organs could be damaged. One way is nekuva; they have a hole in them. So then Chia Barav is saying under the category of a hole, there are 8 types. There are 8 organs that could have a hole and be treifa. Okay, 8 organs could have a hole and be a treifa, like the stomach. Rashi says what they are: the kuvas haveshet, the esophagus, the akrum, and the membrane of the brain, v'halev, and the heart could have a hole, v'hareya, and the lung, v'hakeva, and the stomach, v'hadakin, and the intestines, keres hapnimi, the inner stomach, v'hamhemses, who base akoisis, the other 2 stomachs, chadahu, hatmani. Those 2 are considered 1, so it's all 8. So those are the 8 organs that could have a hole. Im toimar tes. Maybe you'll say there's actually a 9th one, Mara, which is the gallbladder, that if the gallbladder of the animal has a hole, then that's a treifa. So the answer is Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda Ketani law. If you hear that brisa that says that the gallbladder could have a hole and be treifa, that's Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda. The Tanya, Nikva Hakeva, if the stomach has a hole, Nikvu Adakim, treifa. Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda, Omer Af Nikva Hamara. The gallbladder also makes it treifa. Rabbi Yitzchak, Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Yochanan, Halacha, Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda. The halacha is like him that the gallbladder has a hole is a treifa. V'yom Rabbi Yitzchak, Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Yochanan, Ma Yahadru Leira Chavre Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda. What did the Rabbanan answer back to him? Yish Poich La'aretz Miriyasi Va'adayin Eoiv Kayam. Okay, that the pasuk says that when Eoiv was complaining about what Hashem did to him, he said, and the whole pasuk goes like this. If you look at the side of the Gemara, we have the Torah or Hashalim. He brings the whole pasuk. It says, "Yasaibu alai rabav," that his archers surrounded me. Yifalach kil yoisai, he'll chop up my kidneys. V'lo yachmal, and he won't have mercy. Yish poich la'aretz mirirasi. He'll pour out to the earth my bitterness, which means my gallbladder. So Eoiv is saying that part of the sicknesses that happened to him is that his kidneys were chopped up and his gallbladder was punctured and poured out. Okay? So the Rabbanan say back to Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda, look, you're telling me that the gallbladder with a hole is a treifa. The behemoth can't live if its gallbladder has a hole. I'll show you that Eoiv had his gallbladder punctured and he still lived. Okay? So Amr Lahem, Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda answered, Ein maskirin ma'aseh nisim. We don't mention nisim. We don't bring proof from nisim. Because in a hakdama, usually a person dies if their gallbladder is punctured, but Eoy had a nace and he didn't die. The Eloi Temahachi, if you don't say that, then Yifalach Kil Yoisai. It says in the same exact pasuk there that Hashem chopped up Eoy's kidneys, V'lo Yachmol, and he wasn't merciful. So Mikachai, can a person live without kidneys? Ella Nisa Shiny, but it must be it was a miracle. And the miracle is different, you don't bring a rye from that. Tichsiv Rakas Nafshe Shmor, that the HaKadosh Baruch Hu told the Satan, guard his life. Hachanami Nisa Shiny, and therefore also with the gallbladder it's also a nace. Okay? So you read this Gemara, you think, okay, it's an interesting Gemara, but what does it have to do with Zionism? You would never think that. So, but the Rebbe was able to see, and he saw that this does have to do with it. Because the pshat is like this. He's saying that this Gemara shows that keeping Eoy alive was a nace, and the Satan was responsible for that nace. You hear where he's going with this? That there was a nace. Satan brought Eoy into sicknesses, right? He made Eoy have gallbladder trouble, and he also saved Eoy from the trouble. So here also, Satan brought about the war, he brought about the danger, and he brought about the Yeshua.
But what does this have to do with the kavos and trephos? What's that?
Because usually, the Gemara is saying like this, usually if an animal, let's say you cut open an animal and you find the gallbladder has a hole, it's treifa, you can't eat it, because the animal would die like that. So why didn't Eoy die? If Eoy had that problem, the answer is that it was nace. Usually, naturally speaking, it wouldn't live. That's why it's brought in cohen. Okay? Alright, so now...
and it was the Satan who was responsible?
So he's saying the Satan was responsible for protecting Eoy. So he's just driving home his point. He says it wasn't just that the Satan was, okay, don't kill Eoy. It wasn't shot just don't kill him. It was shot that Satan was doing things to him that would, the derech hateva would kill him. And still the Satan was responsible to make sure he didn't die. So it was a nace the other way around. It wasn't just that Shevi al-Tasa, okay, I'm not going to kill him. It was that he actually went out of his way to make him alive. Now, the Divrei Amar Shaz...
to turn on the air conditioner here?
I don't know how.
Alright.
I'm sorry. Divrei Amar Shazal b'zeh heim lepela be'enai. The Marsha in Bava Basra is a pella in my eyes. Why? Shekasav al inyan hamashal shel shvir sachavis. That when the Gemara in Bava Basra says that when a master tells a servant, go break the barrel and keep the wine. So the Marsha says, the kemosh yesh lo eved sar b'shvir sachavis mibachutz let samtzim shelo yavi l'shvira ad hachalal. That it means what's going to happen, the eved's going to go over to the barrel and he's going to make like cracks in it that are just big enough to make a crack in the barrel, but they don't reach the inside so that the wine doesn't come out. So the same thing here. Kach kadeshi yayin shalma b'soicha. Kach asatan haya loy tzara letzamtim v'hikos yoy makos shaloy ba'u ad chalal aguf. That the Satan didn't go into Eoy's body inside in a dangerous way. He just made him rak mi bachutz b'shchin ra mikaf ragloy v'goymer. He just gave him like outside skin diseases that didn't penetrate into the body. Why? Ki makus hachalal misukonos pen teitze nafshay. Because if anything were to happen to his internal organs, that could cause him to die. Ad kan l'shoynai. That's the Marsha. So v'zeh pella. He says l'choyer that's very shver. The Marsha is going against our Gemara in Chulin. The lefi dvarav lo'haya be'iyov shum makas shel chalal. According to him, the Eoy didn't have anything wrong inside his body. He didn't have anything that could cause danger. We see no. Gemara Chulin says that his gallbladder spilled out. The Gemara says, could a person live with that? It was a miracle. You see, it was a nace. He did have a makkah inside his body that he couldn't have lived naturally. The only way he lived was because of a miracle. So it slugged up the Marshal in Bava Basra. But now we're stuck understanding, why did Hashem Yisbarach do this? Why did he give the Satan this job of protecting Eoy's life? V'nir nadvarim be'inyan zeh. Why didn't he do it himself? Right, that's his kasha. Why didn't Hashem do the protecting himself? The Satan should be the one breaking the gallbladder, and Hashem should go in there and make the nace and save him. V'nir nadvarim be'inyan zeh. Al pi ma she'amru b'gemara b'basar daf tes vav. He says the answer is like this. And he's going to say, B'kitzer, he's going to say that Eoiv really would have been better off dying. Eoiv got sick, and he became bad. Originally he was a tzaddik, then he became a mecharef and megadif. In his tsar, he was angry at Hashem, and because of that, Hashem Yisborach took away his olam haba, and therefore he would have been better off if he would have died right then, because then at least he would have had olam haba.
Who says this?
This is what he's going to say. I'm just saying a hakdama. Now, the near nadvarim being zel pi ma
should be better off dying in the 6-day war.
So the near nadvarim being zel pi ma she'amru b'gemara b'basar daf tes vav chasid haya ba'akum v'Eoiv shmoi.
But Eoiv wasn't saying this. He wasn't bad. I mean,
yeah, he was good. It's going to say he was good.
It's a but should be better off dying.
So chasid haya ba'akum v'Eoiv shmoi v'loy ba'al olam ela l'kabel schar. The Eoiv only came to the world in order to get his schar. Hevi HaKadosh Baruch Hu alav yisurin. HaKadosh Baruch Hu brought punishments on him, suffering. Hischil mecharev megadif. Then he began to insult Hashem. He said, "No, there's no reason why you did this to me. I'm totally innocent." Kaf aloi HaKadosh Baruch Hu schara ba'olam hazeh. So Hashem Yisborach said, "You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to give him your I'm going to give you your schar in olam hazeh kedei latarda min olam haba." And he lost his olam haba. Because he didn't lose the fact that he was a tzaddik before the sicknesses came. He just transferred his schar to a different place. It says HaKadosh Baruch Hu brought upon him suffering. Although it was really the Satan. That's not a contradiction. We find that many times. That when the Satan does something and he's the emissary of Hashem, it's written as if Hashem did it. Hashem said to Moshe Rabbeinu, "I'm not telling you to do it." He said you could send spies if you want. I'm not ordering you to do it. It says Moshe sent them on the command of Hashem. Doesn't mean command, it just means permission. Something done with permission from Hashem is called on the command of Hashem. So the same thing here, the Satan had permission to hit Eoiv, so therefore it was considered that Hashem was hitting him. Since Eoiv was such a righteous person, it's greater what was said regarding Eoiv than what was said regarding Avram. Avram was called fearing God. Eoiv had even more praises said about him. Ish tam v'yashar yirei Elokim v'sar meira. He was a man who was pure and he was straight and feared Hashem, and he turned aside from evil. So ha'ech higia ad kach Eliyos nitrad me'olam haba. How did he end up losing his share in olam haba? And now he's just bringing in parenthetically that goyim, even though Eoiv was a goy, but all goyim, unless they're bad, goyim by default have a share in olam haba too. More in Sanhedrin Kuf Hey Amud Aleph, Bilam hu delay asi lialma deasi ha'achrini asu. The Mishnah there in Sanhedrin, the Mishnah Chelik says, Kol Yisrael yesh lahem chelik l'olam haba, right? And ve'elu she'en lahem chelik. It lists the people that don't have a chelik, and it says there are 3 kings and 4 laymen, non-kings, who didn't have a share in olam haba, right? So one of the 4 people that didn't have a share in olam haba was Bilam, and Bilam was a goy. So we're medayik that Bilam didn't have a share, but all other goyim do have a share. Okay, unless they're bad, unless they lose it. So Upirish Rashi, Rabbi Yeshua, the Gemara says it's going like Rabbi Yeshua. The Rebbe is makatza the Gemara a little bit, but the Gemara says that's only Rabbi Yeshua's shita, the masnisin, the ilu, the ilu namar yeshuva rishayim. Let's see the Gemara inside because he's just being makatzer it. Sanhedrin Kuf Hey and Aleph.
But this is like the famous style of Mashiach Gemara over here, Torah and stuff like that.
Yeah, all the Mashiach Gemaras are on this parak. But anyway, let's see if we can find it. It's by the wide lines. The third wide line of the widest lines at the bottom. Okay, so it says Bilam hu delay asi lialma de asi ha'achrini asu. It's mashma from here that other goyim do have a chelik. Masnisin mani. Who's our Mishnah going like? Rabbi Yeshua he. The Tanya Rabbi Lezer Oimer. Rabbi Lezer holds that goyim don't have a chelik in Olam Haba. Rabbi Lezer Oimer Yeshuvu Rishayim Lishoyla. The Rishayim will go back to Gehenim. Kol goyim shchechi Elokim. All the goyim who forget about Hashem. Yeshuvu Rishayim Lishoyla Elu Paishe Yisrael. The first part of the pasuk means the sinful Jews. And Kol goyim shchechi Elokim, the goyim who forget about Hashem, Elu Paishe Oivdu Kechavim. That means the sinners of the non-Jews. Okay? And he learns that it means all non-Jews. All goyim are sinners. Divrei Rebbe Lezer. Those are the words of Rebbe Lezer. Amar lo Rabbi Yeshua. Rabbi Yeshua said back to him, V'chi nemar kichol goyim. So the gear is supposed to be kichol. So does it mean to say that the Paishe Israel should go to Gehenim like all the goyim? V'haloi lo nemar ela kol goyim. It just says all the goyim shchech Elokim. So it means all those goyim who forget about Hashem will go to Gehenim. But the goyim who don't forget about Hashem have a chelik in Olam Haba. Ela Yeshuva Rishayim Lishoyla Maninu. Who does it mean that Rishayim will go to Gehenim? Kol goyim shcheich Elokim. That only means the end of the pasuk. Those people who forget Hashem. Mashenkin, the goyim who know Hashem, the goyim who believe in Hashem will have a chelik in Olam Haba. Okay? That's the Gemara in Sanhedrin. So you see that goyim have a chelik in Olam Haba. So Eoiv L'choyer should have had a chelik in Olam Haba. See weiter now.
Hey, Rabbi Shapiro says, Bibi Netanyahu won't be able to like bring carbonos, but goyim could or something.
In Russia, Israel can't bring a carbon. Yeah. Kechol goyim mashma. So Pirush Rashi, Rabbi Yeshua the Masnisin, the Ilu Namar Yeshuva Rishayim Lishayla. This is the quote from the Gemara. That if it would have said Yeshuva Rishayim Lishayla, the Rishayim, the Jewish Rishayim will go to Gehenim Kechol HaGoyim, like the Goyim, mashma Kedekamrat. That would have been mashma like you, that all Goyim have no share. But Hashta Dichsiv Kol Goyim. Now that it says all the nations shchech Elokim loy mashma elois na shoichim Eloka kegoyin Bilam v'shekem oisai. It's only people who forget Hashem like Bilam. Aval achrini asu kedamrinim b'reish pirkin v'rau zarim tzoynachem v'nei neichar ikorechem lo'olam haba. That what will the goyim do in olam haba? They'll be the shepherds of the Jews. They'll watch their flocks. They'll make a living for them and help them learn Torah. And by the way, how do we paskin? We have Rabbi Yeshua saying goyim have a chelik, and Rabbi Lezer says they don't have a chelik. So the Rambam in two places. The Rambam in Hilchos Tshuva, the Rambam says goyim have a share in olam haba, and in Hilchos Malachim, I think he also says it. The goyim who believe in Hashem, as long as they believe in Hashem and they keep the Sheva Mitzvahs B'nai Noach, they have a share in olam haba. There is one Rambam that says not like that. It's just apparently a steer in the Rambam. The Rambam in Hilchos Yisur Bia, where he's talking about Gerim, he says when a guy comes to be Megayer, we tell him a few mitzvahs and we teach him a little bit, and then we tell him, the Rambam says, we tell him, you should know, V'da, Sh'dalecha, Ha'olam haba, Einoi elo l'tzadikim v'hem b'Yisrael. The Olam haba is only for righteous people who are Jewish. So the Rambam says. So the Chayra, it's a steer to the other Rambam. So what I wanted to say is that the Pshat, and the Chayra, to make the kasha bigger, here is a guy.
All the people who are Jewish?
Well, the Chayra, this Rambam in Hilchos.
Not Gerim?
No, even Gerim, but I'm saying not Goyim. Okay? But to make the kasha bigger, the makor for the Rambam is Yavamas. The makor for the Rambam in Yisur Bia is in the Yavamas, on the Daf Mem Zayin, whatever it is, where it talks about Gerim. There the Gemara says also the same exact thing, except it leaves off the word Nehem Yisrael. The Gemara just says the oil and haba is only for tzaddikim, period. So the Rambam added the words Yisrael. So the Rambam created the stira here. Like,
but I think you're supposed to discourage a guy.
Oh, yeah. Also, that's also making the kasha bigger. If you want to discourage him, you should tell him. You shouldn't tell him, "Oh, yeah, become a Jew and then you'll get olam haba." Tell him, "Yeah, you could stay a guy. You'll have olam haba. Don't worry." So, what I was thinking is like this. This is part of the test. It says that when Yisro came and he heard about the downfall of Mitzrayim, his basar was nasa chadudim. He became very upset. Right? He didn't want to hear about the goyim dying. Because why? Because ger ad asar dari, a ger until 10 generations still has this. Don't be mavaza a goy in front of him. You shouldn't go in front of a ger and say, "Oh, these goyim are such garbage," whatever. Don't say bad about goyim because the ger will get angry, right? He'll feel bad. So the vort is over here also. This guy is coming to be Megai. We want to test him. We want to see how pro-Jewish he is. So we tell him, you know what? Only Jews have olam haba. So if he's not going to be a good Jew, he's going to get angry. He's going to say, "What is this? You exclude goyim from olam haba? Okay, good. I'm being Megayer now, but I'm still sticking up for my brothers over here. You're throwing them out of olam haba." So we tell him that. We want to see what he's going to answer. If he answers, "Yeah, I'll be a yid anyway," then we let him in. But be'emes, the Rambam's pasuk like Rabbi Yeshua, who holds that goyim have a chelik. All right, back to the haGuela. So like this. So the question is, why didn't Eoy have olam haba? So he says like this: because what did Eoy do? When he got sick, he insulted Hashem. Originally, the point of the suffering was to atone for his sins, so that he should have all his schar waiting for him in olam haba. He shouldn't have to go to Gehenna. But he didn't take the benefit of this, and he didn't like it. Therefore Hashem said, "Okay, I'll do it the opposite way. I'll give you more schar over here. The Torah de olam haba. Yuyin sham. He says that can't be the only reason why Eoy lost his olam haba, because it says Shahari Amru Sham Gemara Daf Tes Zayin Eoy loy bedas yadaber. Eoy didn't speak with full consciousness. Amar Rava Mikan she'ein olam nitfas b'shas tzaroi. He didn't have full responsibility for his words when he was in pain. A person could say things when they're in pain that they don't really mean. Pirush Rashi Zal, like we know, like it says that when women are in pain, in childbirth, they swear they're never going to have another child, right? You can't blame someone for something they say when they're in pain. Rashi Zal, wait a second. Pirush Rashi Zal Sham she'ein adam nitfas li'ischayev al shehu medaber kasha machmas tsar v'yisurin. A person is not blamed for the things he says when he's in pain. He wasn't speaking with wickedness. He wasn't bad. He just he couldn't be blamed. He's not to do sal Eoy. That HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself said this. He said, "Eoy, I'm not blaming you for what you're saying because you're only saying because you're in pain." But rather Hashem blamed the other friends of Eoy because they chastised him. They came to Eoy and they said, "Yeah, Eoy, you must have committed some sins, and that's why you're getting this suffering." Since Eoy wasn't blamed for it, why did he lose his olam haba? That the Mefarshim say that there was no punishment for it. He didn't get punished for it. his greatness was decreased. That the world to come, the permanent world, was switched with a temporary world. They taka paid him back for all the good that he did. He didn't lose any of it. But he got it only in here, in this world. So it comes out like this, that Eov lost his Olam Haba wasn't really a punishment. It was just that Eov wasn't fit for Olam Haba after what he did. So his schar was translated into Olam Hazeh schar. Nimtza lefi zeh she'ilu lo haya nasim lo anisim ho'elu. If the nisim that the Satan did for him, that saved his life, if those nisim had not happened, v'haya meis batchila, and he would have died k'shabo ulav ha'yisurim, from the sicknesses, lo haya mecharef megad, if he would never have reached this point when he was insulting Hashem. K'mavur b'kra b'yimei haschal, the beginning of Eov's suffering, he was good, right? He never insulted Hashem then. He said Hashem nastan, Hashem lakach, right? Hashem gave, Hashem took away. He did not sin with his lips at the beginning. Ella, when did he sin? After many days of suffering, that's when he started insulting. Even if he would have insulted Hashem and then died right away, then Hashem wouldn't have been able to give him his schar in this world, because he wouldn't have lived to that point. Because what happened? He lived after the sicknesses. He got better, and he remarried, and he had children, and right, he had much more money. So if he wouldn't have lived, Hashem doesn't withhold anybody's reward. Especially a great person like Eov. So he would have died. He would have gone straight to Olam Haba. Therefore, the miracles that happened were bad for him. It changed his permanent world and gave him a temporary world. Now we understand the answer to our question. Why didn't Hashem step in and save him from the gallbladder and all the other things? Because these kind of miracles that will lead to insulting Hashem, and they'll lead to losing his Olam Haba, Hashem doesn't do them himself, he does them through his representative, that is the Satan. Since he anyway had to tell the Satan not to kill him because he's the Malach Mavis, therefore he said, you know what, Hashem, the Satan will do everything, he'll protect Eloh's life too. Because the Satan is the one, he likes to do these kind of things. He likes to go and make people lose their Olam Haba. Move on to he didn't tell him how to hurt Eov. He just said he's in your hands. That nichlal in these words, he's in your hands, is that he's in your hands to pain him, but he's also in your hands to save him. He wasn't commanded how to do it. So why did the Satan, since he didn't have a command how to do it, why did he decide to do it in this way? That he would have to do a miracle for him. And why did the Satan make himself suffer too? Why did he have to do that? Since he had the whole decision in his hands. The answer is the Satan, he gives his life over, means he's dedicated. He wants people to do Averis. That's his whole job. He's like he's the tempter. And therefore he wants to bring a situation on Eov where he's really, really sick and he's almost dead, and then he'll curse Hashem, or he'll insult. And then when he's in that situation, he'll save him and make him alive again. L'torda min olam haba. V'kacha hema ma'asav b'mesiris nefesh mamish. And now, this is what he does. This is what the Sultan does, even though it costs him. So this is what his analogy is to 6-Day War, right? The Sultan, it could have been. He's not saying for sure yet, because he's going to say not like that soon. But he's saying basically the Sultan, his role could have been in the 6-Day War to bring about the danger and to save the Yidden, because when he saved them through the Zionists, that causes chiyuv v'giduf, it causes people to insult HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Okay, let's do one more paragraph. I think we have time. V'al tisma al adavar. Don't be amazed at this. Don't be surprised. Shekein matzinu b'Rabbeinu Bachya parshas miketz. Shehevi mipirkei cholos. Rabbeinu Bachya is talking there at the end of parshas miketz. He's talking about how the sin of selling Yosef led to the Asar Harugi Malchus. So, take a look.
Why like 1,000 years later?
Yeah, but al pi Kabbalah, that's what it says, and the Kabbalah is based on the Sefer Pirkei Chalas. Pirkei Chalas is a Sefer from Tanaim, a Sefer, one of the earliest Sefer Kabbalah. So, let's take a look inside first, because the Rebbe is Makatzer it. It says, "V'chein timtza b'sefer b'pirkei chalos, Amar Rabbi Yishmael, Oisei hayoim chamishi b'Shabbos haya." That day was a Thursday. Kishabas hashmua mikrach gadol sheberoimi, shetziva Lupinus Caesar. That the news arrived from Rome that Lupinus, the king, commanded the tafsu arba anashim. This Rebbeinu Bachya, yeah. They grabbed 4 men, Elu me'abirei Yisrael, from the greatest Chachamim, Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, Rabbi Yishmael ben Elisha, Rabbi Lazar ben Dama, Rabbi Yehuda ben Bava. It's interesting. Rabbi Yishmael is talking, and he's mentioning Rabbi Yishmael ben Elisha. I think it's himself. No, Rabbi Yishmael ben Elisha is not the same as Rabbi Yishmael. Umosayim. Ushmoina al alafim talmidei chachamim Yerushalayim pidyon shalahem, and as a ransom they demanded, if you want us to release these 4 chachamim, you have to give us 208,000 Torah scholars from Yerushalayim. V'kivan shara Rabbi Nechuni ben Akana gzeirazu. Rabbi Nechuni ben Akana was a great makubal. He saw this decree. So Ahmad.
Yeah, he was on a bechorach.
Right. So. Ahmad v'hoiridani l'merkava. He brought Rabbi Shmuel down to the Merkava, which is something in Shemayim, the Merkava that Yechezkel saw, right? Ubikashti shaila mi Suriel Sara Panim. I asked the angel Suriel, v'amar li, and I said, can we save these people? So v'amar li, and he said to me, Asara nichtevu bebezdin shel Maila. There are 10 tzaddikim who are written in the Bezdin shel Maila. V'nitnu loy l'samayel harasha sarei shel Esav. They're given over to Samach Mem, the angel of Esav. V'amru loy lech v'hikached me'abirei Yisrael. Kol nesech toiv yerech v'kasef lahashlim gzeiras v'goynev ishu mechar v'nimsti b'yada moisi umas. So basically, they said to the Sultan, go and kill these 10 tzaddikim in a very cruel manner, to be mekayim the punishment of the Torah of the goynev ishu mecharei, that the Torah says when someone steals a person, kidnaps a person, and sells him, v'nimsa b'yadai moisi umas. Okay, so because of this punishment that was due to the 10 brothers of Yosef who sold him, that's why the 10 Harugi Malchus got killed. Ushmura loy lihinakim imenu. But it was guarded. It was saved, meaning Hashem saved up and remembered this act to give nekama, to go and take revenge on Samach Mem, ad shehitagia, and this nekama is waiting to happen until the time comes that it says in the pasuk in Yeshaya, Yifkod Hashem al tzvar hamarim b'amarim. He'll go and he'll punish the heavenly host. He'll punish his angels. So then, when he punishes the angels, he'll punish Satan too. The gedim uchvasim shel yoim, or it's supposed to be ke gedim uchvasim shel yoim hakipurim. It's supposed to say. So it says just like the gedi, just like the goat, the sar la that was thrown off the cliff on Yom Kippur and it went down the mountain and it got destroyed. So the same punishment is going to happen to the Satan as the result of what he's doing to the Asar Harugim Malchus. Okay? So basically he's trying to show, the Rebbe is trying to bring this to show that the Satan is Meiser Nefesh. The Satan doesn't care about his own pain and own suffering. He's there to do his job, and his job is to go and punish Klal Yisrael, punish them or tempt. So here he was willing to kill the Asar Harugim Malchus, even though he knew that he was going to get this punishment and be like the Sar Lazazel. Amar Rabbi Yishmael Kol Hasrois Halalu. All these warnings that they gave the Satan, V'chol Atanaim Halalu, all these conditions, Histru boy, they warned him, V'hisnu im Samal Harasha, V'hu Amar Kibalti Alai. He said, I don't care, I'll do it anyway. V'yivchar Asar Me'abirei Yisrael. He chose 10 tzaddikim. Amar Rabbi Yishmael Ma Asa Zehuriel Hashem Elokei Yisrael Be'ois Hashah. What did Hashem do at that time? Lo he speak loimer l'stoifer k'soiv gzeros to makus gedolos kashas v'azos and muvalos and neiros to kvedos al roimi. That Hashem didn't even say to the scribe of the Beis Din Shel Maalah to write down the punishments that are going to come upon Rome. Because he was very angry at the Satan. The Satan was willing to accept all these punishments and Abid to do what he did to the Asar Harugim Malchus. So Hashem was so angry he didn't even tell the slaver to write it down. El miyad natan liyar. Hashem himself took the paper. The cost of Allah of nekamazu asida ushmura l'roimi arashah. That this danger is coming upon Rome. So what's going on in heaven is playing out down on earth. That just like he's angry at the Satan, he's angry at Rome, and Rome got punished for what they did to the Asar Harugim Malchus. And then it goes on. It says what happened to Rome. Tal anan echad v'tamoy l'malam miroimi, etc., etc. Okay. So now let's get back to the Rebbe. He says, "Al tisma ladav." Don't be surprised. Shekein matzinim b'Rabbeinu Bachli Parshas Miketz shehevi mipirkei Echalos b'dvar Asar Harugim Malchus shahaya Satan mekatrig l'mayla l'moistrim b'yadai. The Satan wanted them to be in his hands. V'nosnu loy l'samach mem rosh Asar shel Esav. They gave them to the samach mem. The Histru boy, but they warned him about Azhar's noiros. Shezeh shmura loy li'nakim mimenu, that he's going to get punished for this. V'makos tatsumois v'noiros moed. Sheyev shelitzar b'seichel, that you can't imagine. K'mavur la'hamayin sham. Because of Shalom Rabbi Yishmael, Kol Asrois Avelu, Kol Atanaim Avelu, Histru boy, V'hisnu im Samach Mem, Rasha, V'hu Omer Kibalti Alai. The Samach Mem accepted it. V'yivchar Asar Me'abirei Yisrael. He chose 10 tzaddikim. Omer Rabbi Yishmael, V'yois Hashalo, he speak Loimer L'Soifer K'Soiv Gzeris Neiros, Makis Gedolos V'Kashas V'Azos V'Muvalos Neiros V'Kvedos Neichemosh Nismale Al Samach Mem. Harasha Shekibel Olav Kol Atanaim Alalu Yun Sham Barichus. Okay, so we saw it already. See there, Barichus Tvar of Shehumi Pirkei Echala Shekasvu Atanaim. This is the source for this is the Tanaim. Uvazemavur Ad Kama Ma'aser Shel Satan b'Mesiras Nefesh. You see how dedicated the Satan is to his job. Mamish lahashlim pu'ulaisav ad she'iyaf shel lahavino b'seichel anoishi. We can't understand it. V'imkein ein tema b'masha master nafsho at least bal yoister mi'yisure iyov lahavio ilidei kach. Now we understand why the Satan was able to stand this pain that was more than Eov in order to bring Eov to be Mecharef Megadif. Now, the Ilu Hayalanu Mesiras Nefesh Avur Hashem Yisbarach. If we today would have the amount of Mesiras Nefesh for Hashem, the Toirasa Ekdoisha, Af Chelik Echa Minei Elef Me'erech HaMesiras Nefesh Sheish LaSatan. Even 1,000th of the amount of dedication that the Satan has, B'Pu'ulaisav, B'Vadai Loi Hayinu Noiflim Berishta. We wouldn't have fallen into his net. But the Satan also does this. He goes into our hearts. He tries to extinguish our power of Kedusha. And Hashem should have mercy on us and let us still have some power to fight back against the Satan. But I don't want to stop here because I want to show what the Rebbe says for real. He's proposing here that the whole miracle of the Hatzalah of the war was from the Satan. But now he's going to say a different option here, which I think he goes with. Top of the page, Yud Zayin. It could be that in the 6-day war also, Higia ad kacha k'moy shahaya be'ioiv. Shahayu atzaris v'atlois v'gam atzola shahaya be'emes benisim. Even the salvation of Eoiv, gam zeh haya al yidei satan. V'nitzmach mizeh ra gedoyla k'mevur le'el. And that's why Eoiv lost his olam haba. V'chein hu lo'elam. This is true today also. She'im chas v'shalom ba eza hatzola. When a Hatzalah, when a Yeshua, when a saving comes, al yidei satan, ein l'shar ma sheyuchal chas v'shalom litzmoach mizeh. That the Satan's Yeshua could only lead to bad things. From the wicked comes out wickedness. We don't want to even say it because we don't want to give the Satan an idea. He says, I think, however, not like that. He says, this Yeshua of the war was not from the Satan. I think that only the danger that the beginning of the war, the tensions that led to the war were created by the Rishaim. But the Hatzalah ba mi Hashem yisbarach. I think the Hatzalah of the war came from Hashem. So why did Hashem make it happen through the Tzahal? He says, El shal yidei ha'avonos hamrubim, because of the sins of the people. Nitan reshus la'asamach mem lahachnis pozet tzurasai. The Besamach Mem was able to put his form on it, his stamp on it. Ki'ilu mehem u'mechayaloisav ba, just to make it look like it was from him, but not really. Meaning, it didn't really happen through the Israeli army. The Israeli army wasn't so amazing that they won the war. It was because Hashem made that the Arabs made certain mistakes. Like why did Jordan enter the war? They didn't have to enter the war, right? They entered it because they thought, they heard a false report. The Egyptians gave a false report that they were winning, and really they were losing. So the Jordanians said, okay, let's join the war too. The Israelis warned Jordan. They said, if you don't join the war, we're not going to bomb you, we're not going to bother you. But they joined it voluntarily, and Syria also joined it because they heard these false reports. And a bunch of other things the Arabs did that were kind of dumb. They made a no-fly zone over Egypt. They didn't want anyone shooting down any planes. What's it called? Not no-fly zone. They said don't shoot down any planes because the head of the Egyptian army was flying at that time. And so when the Israeli planes came to attack, they didn't shoot down the Israeli planes. And so on and so on. There were these embarrassing mistakes that led to the defeat. So he's saying those things came from Hashem Yisbarach, and those things are not to the credit of Tzahal. Okay, but still, it looked to the world like the Israelis won, so therefore it looked like we have to thank them, and that's what the avoinus caused. The hafitz means the kfir ba'olam, but bi'avla, maybe ba'olam it's supposed to say v'chol shar avos nizikin bazeh. K'moishem avur b'gemara shenitan reshus le'avodah zarah laharos ba'ois u'moites. That avodah zarah even has the power sometimes to show a miraculous thing. Avodah zarah hevia es hagashamim. Sometimes the avodah zarah could cause it to rain. Hatrichim ba'olam, if they needed rain. Kasher isbar kol zeh b'divrei hakuntris ba'oyer. And we're going to explain this more at length inside the kuntris. Aval mi yodea ma yiyeh b'soifan shel dvarim. Who knows what the end of this is going to be? Right now it's a Yeshua, but who knows what the end will be? So we're going to stop here. Mitzvah Shem. But I'm just saying that the Rebbe comes out that it's not because it's not the Satan that saved them in the war, it's Hashem Yisbarach, but it could have been, he could have said this whole explanation about the Satan saving them. It's possible. But he thinks that it wasn't that, it was Hashem saving them.